vehicle which transmitted him or transferred him from one place to another. I mean, you may be still laughing, but today with our technology, we understand how if you have the technology to travel with the speed of light and so on, which is very difficult to grasp yet, you can go so much beyond. But 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, that would have been something like absurd. But today, it's no longer an absurd thing. Time traveling is no longer into science fiction. It is something that even scientists are discussing. What are the problems of time traveling? What are the possibilities of time travel and so on? Even time traveling.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that humans can't imagine that but the reality is there's a lot of steps to get there, in like logical steps that humans have actually worked towards. But if someone of 2,000 years ago has made this great claim and there's no like lead up to it, why would anyone believe that?
But do you at least understand and appreciate that things in the past when these things happened, because we were not there, we cannot just simply judge them and value them with a value judgment saying it never happened, it's just simply absurd, because we don't know the mechanics that things were in place. For example, if, someone just did this and the blind got healed, back then it would be considered to be magic, wouldn't it?
Okay, but the difference is there's nothing which says, okay, Mohammed, I got some engineers and they built a really complicated machine that flew. It literally said a horse flew in there. It's very simple.
It wasn't a horse, was it? Do horses have wings?
A creature, whatever it was.
Exactly. So when you say a creature, look, if I give you a spaceship now, if you look at like a distance, you can say, oh, this looks like a bird, this looks like a falcon, this looks like... You can have all your conceptions about it, but at the end of the day, it's a vehicle. So the Prophet had a vehicle, a medium that transported him.
But the technology did not exist at the time to fly back then.
Technology. A prophet who has been given this medium from God, you require human technology.
That assumes that requires believing in God.
Absolutely. So why would someone in today's age even doubt in God? In the existence of God.
Why doesn't God
That's
come
absurd.
right now and give me a magical vehicle that doesn't exist yet, so to make me happy then? Why can't I
Let's understand something. I say it's absurd today for people to even have doubt in the existence of God. It's absurd.
Okay.
Do you have anything to say in response that it's not absurd?
I would say the overwhelming evidence is there's probably more evidence against God than that's for God in the world.
Right. What is God? That there's no evidence for
religion,
God. No. If you have a conception of God and say there's more evidence against God, you must already have a conception of God, what God is. What is God to you? That there is evidence against that. Maybe I agree with you. If you say, oh, the God that forgets, the God that eats, the God that sleeps, God that takes rest, the God doesn't need, I would say, yeah, there's evidence against that God. I would agree with you. But what is the real concept of God that we are discussing when you're talking about theology?
So I think there might be some kind of God, but I don't think the God that exists, if he does exist, is the kind who will intervene 2,000 years ago and give someone a magical vehicle to fly into the sky.
No, intervention is something different. First, the question is whether there is indeed a creator God of our cosmos. And what this creator does in terms of actions and interventions is a different thing. It's God's prerogative. If God wants to somehow lift you and, like you are floating in space, that's his prerogative. But does God exist as we understand in theology what God is? The necessary being of our existence, the creator, the originator, the sustainer of this universe. Does that God exist?
My answer is I don't know. I'll find out when I die.
You see, there's one thing called I don't know, and one thing is I know it doesn't exist, like there's more evidence against it. Do you remember what you just said?
He's more likely to not exist, but at the same time he could exist.
Okay. So let's do the negative. Why do you say God doesn't exist? What are those?
Let me rephrase myself. I think there's a good chance he exists, but only in a very limited form. Like maybe he created the universe, like he did a Big Bang maybe, and that was it, and nothing else after that.
So you're saying there is a creator, but this creator is not concerned about this creation. So there's a deistic concept of God in which created and left, and that's it, and to their own peril, to their own destruction, whatever. Why? What gives? No, if you're bringing something like this, it has to be reasonable. Any proposition that you have, it needs to have some kind of making sense to it. Why would you want to propose a creator who is totally not interested in the creation? Created this creation with all this magnificence, with all this intricacy, with all this complexity and harmony and this precision engineering, and then you're saying he doesn't care about anything about it. He just created and left it there.
I think there's so much that can be explained by science, and there's so much more to be learned that we don't even know
But
yet.
do you realize? Imagine you make a phone like this. It has so many functions. It records sound, images, right? Writings. It communicates from people at distance, and someone who made it and just left it there. As I said, no real function and purpose for it. You would say, why did you spend so much? I'm not saying time and energy and effort, but why did you even bother to make this phone and then just leave it there without being it used for a particular function or a purpose?
Yes, that's a good argument for why God might exist.
No, I'm saying, why would we even think that the Creator is a deist God by creating all this, superb creation, right? And then is totally distant from it. Why?
I don't know. Like, I don't have to have an answer.
We have to have a reason if you're going to propose to that.
We don't have to
just like
a reason for that could it not just be the fact that because there's many inventors that invent products, technology, that they invent it and then they leave it.
No, they don't just invent it for leave it.
No, they don't invent it for leave it. There's a reason for the invention, but there's no follow-up on it.
No. They don't walk away from it because the inventors may be going to the next project and so on. They've invented it so that this can be used
for example, just to answer your question, would it not be a valid reason from what he was saying that God created us and then he moved to his next project? He moved to his next project. He left us.
So if God created, okay, what was the purpose of our creation? Let's start answering some of this question before you go into God's next project. So God created us with a purpose or without a purpose?
From our perspective, I would personally say there's always a purpose for creation.
No,
but
in God's perspective.
But the thing is, then it comes to, how can we talk on God's perspective? On what basis are we talking on God's perspective?
No, when you propose a model in which there is a creator who created this universe and then left it, then you should ask, the creator with so much wisdom created this universe where knowledge is demonstrated, wisdom is demonstrated, and created in vain, with no purpose. Quran actually talks about this. Do you really think God created this universe in vain? So you think all of this intricate universe that we have, from a wise creator with wisdom, possessor of knowledge, just created it in vain? Now that needs an explanation. Why would it be just like that?
I think we need an explanation, but I don't think you need a religious text to
No. The question is whether the creator is created without any purpose or with a purpose. It makes sense reasonably that there is a purpose in bringing this creation. If you say there isn't a purpose or a function or a reason, you have to give the explanation.
Could I ask a question? Just on that point, could I ask a question?
Yeah.
So, for example, if we're saying that God created us, and we're making a conception of God, now, are we talking from a specific theology or are we talking more like a philosophical basis?
Holistically.
Okay. Yeah. So then if we say that there has to be a utility or function for our creation, then what we're essentially saying is that we're saying that we believe from our understanding and limited knowledge that that's how God is going to also think.
I missed the second part.
Okay. So what we're saying is that, because we believe that when things are created, there has to be some utility to it. Yeah. Otherwise, it's purposeless. Yeah. But isn't that our limited view on what we understand? How can we superimpose that on God? Why would God have to have a utility just because we feel there should be?
No,
the point.
No. The reason why this is not something that's reasonable to accept as a counter is because when we postulate and say God, our creator, is knowledgeable, possessor of knowledge, is wise, all wise, then anything that is brought into existence is through his wisdom, and he will have brought it in for a specific purpose. If you're wise, you can simply do that in vain. It doesn't make any sense because you are proposing that the creator is wise. Wisdom follows a reason.
Okay, but that's perfect. Then why can we not just accept that the wisdom of creation was to be created and nothing more?
It doesn't make sense to be created.
No.
Wisdom of created is to be created. It's a circular statement. Go ahead.
No. Let me explain it. So maybe I didn't explain it properly. So the wisdom, because you said what is the function or the purpose? The purpose for God's perspective of us being here is purely to be created and there to be a perpetual creation ongoing. And then the rest is on us. Why cannot that be a wise thing to do?
Okay, so there is a function then.
Yeah, that is the function. Yeah.
Okay, so now we agree it's not a deistic God, but there is already a function set in place.
But then
right?
after that, he stepped away.
Okay, he stepped away. Yeah. Fine. So we are created to carry on living.
Are you asking what I think God thinks or what I think?
No, not your thinking. Not any thinking. Because you're proposing a model in which God created and set a particular pattern of conduct of living or whatever, a way that the universe will proceed. Now, I want to know what that way is. So, for example, within this way, is lying okay? Is cheating okay? Is deceiving okay? Is killing okay? Is murder okay? Is euthanasia okay? Is abortion okay? I've just put some shotgun tactics of lots of questions to tell you these are moral questions, ethical questions. Now, what's the answer from God's perspective?
So I think obviously the point you made are important because about moral relativism. Yeah, are you talking about is there relative morality or is it divine? It's essentially what you're asking, which I appreciate. Yeah, so essentially my point here would be, just for purpose of discussion, is that do you not think? Yeah, because ultimately you said that there needs to be reasoning and understanding. Do you not think you are taking a major onus upon yourself to try to say that the reason God did anything is what I am saying? Because at the end of the day...
No, I'm not saying any of that.
Look, and like, for example, if you say there's a function for us being here, what you're saying is, I believe that God has provided a function if you take away your religious belief from it. Yeah? Because if you say, if you're a Muslim, and you say that as a Muslim we believe A, B and C because this is what...
You're a Muslim too, right?
I am, yes. Yeah.
So why are you arguing?
No, I'm having a discussion. Just a discussion.
Why?
Why?
Because you seem to be...
No, I brought my son here. I want him to understand how discussions go.
Fine.
Yeah.
So he's not playing a devil's advocate, is he?
No, I am.
We don't use this term. He's just using a counter argument, a counter position, see how this can be then answered from Islamic perspective.
You're Sheikh Mansur. You're good. So you're a good person to listen.
So we don't use this term, he's a devil's advocate, because he's not a devil.
He doesn't know that.
Yeah?
So
do you understand? He's taking the counter position to see whether our Islamic position is solid.
Yeah? You understand? Yeah, it's okay.
Go ahead.
So essentially, would you not say, so if we have our belief, and we say, in our belief, we believe A, B, and C, that's clear, there's no problem. Stepping away from that and you're speaking to somebody who's not a Muslim, when you make the point that is there a function and what was God's position, essentially if they don't believe in Islam and they believe that this is the function of God, then how do you convince them that yes, what I believe to be the function of God is the function of God, because that's just another human being's opinion.
Yeah, so first we establish that there has to be this moral duty and a purpose that we have to follow that is grounded in God, rooted in God, right? Yeah, it has to be from God, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't make the purposes. I don't say the purpose of our living is to eat chocolates. I can't, he might say no, right? You see, we can't make these purposes ourselves because these will be all subjective. You can say something different. Then how do we know what the truth is? So this has to be grounded on the revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah has to be the one who will tell us convincingly to us, and we will have no doubt on this matter that this is the reason why we're created.
Based on that, do you believe the contingency argument is a solid argument for being or not? You think so? Any questions you can ask now?
Which form of contingency argument? Because you have to be careful, because we don't take the whole of the contingency argument models in terms of when people talk about God consisting of parts and so on, right? So don't go through the lines of, has he told you about Ibn Sina's arguments and so on?
No, he's learned this himself.
Okay,
he
right.
Brings me up
the only thing I think it's important for us to follow is things are dependent on something else. Everything else dependent. Ultimately, they have to depend on something which is independent. Up to that, I don't think you need to go anything beyond that. Because what that thing is, which is independent of everything, we say is the necessary being, has to be necessarily in existence. And that necessary being must possess qualities, attributes or properties which are necessarily within this being. Not given by me or you or anyone else or anything else, because there will be no other. Because there's no other being or any other originator besides him, because the necessary being will be the only one who is absolute, only one who is perfect in the properties and qualities.
Why does that being then have to be named as God, Allah, and not something else? Is that what Alan said?
Yeah. Yeah, so my friend said, okay, so my friend basically said, why do we label it as God and why is it nothing else? Why, but the point is though, isn't God just the generic term for the independent being, the independent being?
Slightly more than that, because you can say the necessary being is the universe, right? But the only problem with this is the necessary being must possess a will, making the difference of choice, exercising choice, saying, creating with a choice, like, okay, creates this or that. So this possession of a will differentiates what we say a personal entity or being, as opposed to something which is the universe as it is, the nature, Mother Nature, whatever they want to call it, which doesn't have any self-awareness, doesn't possess any intellect or will or choice. But the fact that the universe demonstrates that it is within the operation of someone who possesses all of that. And that necessary being, we say, is a personal being who possesses life, self-awareness, power, knowledge, will, and has brought this into existence. And we are all dependent. And because of that, we should be naturally thankful for all that we have here, for our own existence, for our own life, on our subsistence of life. For example, this necessary being didn't only create us only, he gave us food and water and the air to sustain our life. So if somebody gives you food, like your dad or your mom, right, and water and drinks and all that thing, you should say, thank you, Dad, I like that. Oh, enjoy. Nice food, whatever, right? You're thankful. So the one who gave you life and everything else to sustain life, you should be thankful. Being thankful to the necessary being, being grateful to necessary being, is the essence of what we call the worship. This is how we say we worship, but the essence is rooted in being thankful and being grateful. And that relationship, we say, is one of God and God's creation. God is the one who deserves our worship, and the essence of that is thanks and gratitude, right? So that now the entity is called God, because the God is an object of someone's ultimate reverence, ultimate, love and respect and total reliance. That's all worship.
And then just on that, Yusuf, the other question, the point you made, which is a good point, that we should be grateful to God because He gave us everything. Yeah? Then what did Alan say? And you were discussing with me. Why would you be grateful to a God that allows the killings and all the murders? What were you saying?
Yeah, so he said, why would you be grateful to God, a necessary being, which caused all this hate? Because if he you should always be thankful to him that while there are people why there are wars and bloodshed.
Okay, this is all because of God creating us in a special way, and that special way is giving a special thing that we have is called choice. The choice, the will that we have. Now, God could have just simply made us all in such a way that no one can do anything against His laws. So no one can kill, no one can rob. Just imagine, someone wants to stab someone, butterflies. Someone wants to murder someone, it becomes like, nice flowers. Nothing happens. Then you will say oh, I want to just, not listen to you. And say, I want to argue with you, I want to disagree with you, but I can't. Then do I still have this freedom of choice anymore? I will be compelled like a robot. So God, your friend, is asking that God creates robots, not human beings, agents with free will. Agents like ourselves with the free will means you can have a knife and you can cut your apples into pieces and eat it, or you can take that knife and you can stab someone and kill someone. The choice is there, but God didn't want us to do the other one, the wrong actions, where you kill someone, murder someone, you harm someone. Okay? The choice is there. So we will be accountable for the choices that we make, the wrong choices that we make. And God constantly gives us guidance in terms of don't make these wrong choices, because you will be then punished and accountable for that. So the fact that there are evil in this world is because in this world we are created with a particular set of functionality in which one of the main ingredients is we have a choice, in which we can exercise our choice for good or for bad. Otherwise, people are expecting that you behave like robots. Then what is there within you can say, thank God. Because you're forced to thanking God. But once you appreciate with your will that I can disobey God, I can somehow not believe in God, and yet you submit and surrender your will and say, thank you God for all of that. That is your appreciation, right? So that's in a better way of living rather than living like a robot. And then you do things as you're told. Would you not agree?
It was a good dance move, but Shukran, thank you so much. Any more questions, Ali?
Okay, brother, nice. I knew I like this. I knew you were Muslim, mashallah. I was wondering why you were arguing.
Thank you.
Okay, you take care. May Allah, grant you the knowledge and the wisdom and make you a good da'iyah, so that through you, inshallah, we will see a lot more people coming to Islam. Okay, but learn as your father is doing. Learn, be grounded on Islam first, and then go into the venture in discussing with people and so on.
They're actually being taught at school. You're being taught at school, continue to say argument.
Really? At school?
How old are you? 11. He rang me up and he goes, Baba, what's the kalam argument? I'm like, give me a second. Yeah, darling, my phone, bad line. Let me get back to you in half an hour. But you know what? We learned this a lot later on.
Yeah.
Strange thing they're teaching at school.
Anyway.
It is good though.
But yes, consolidate your belief in Allah, in the Quran, in the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam first, so that anything that comes to you by anyone, it's easy to answer. Okay? Take care. Yusuf?
Yes.
Okay, assalamu alaikum, Yusuf. Thank you.
If someone's using that crap and I said they're amazing, that sounds a bit messed up.
The British treat you like crap and you call them amazing.
Let's carry on with this one.
They spit on your culture, they laugh at our culture and religion and history. They laugh at it. They make us all speak English. They say you have to go to nightclubs and drink beer for you to be accepted into British society.
Or we'll just end there, because he left the conversation anyway. Because if someone's not personally willing to continue that discussion, he might feel that I'm just going there and he doesn't want to continue.